everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from Evelyn and Peter, and today I have this cute crochet top to share with you guys. You can find the free pattern on my blog, enpcrochet.com. It includes sizes extra small through 5X. I'm making the size small in the video, so I always recommend pulling up that pattern and following along, especially if you're making a different size, because your stitch count and your row counts will be different. So I will link to that in the description for you guys. It's also available as a kit with Lion Brand. The kit comes with all the yarn you need to make your top. You can customize your yarn color, and then you also get a free copy of the printable PDF download. If you're not already subscribed to my newsletter, make sure you go ahead and do that. I will let you guys know whenever they have a really good sale. They frequently do 30% off sales, so you can get the best deal possible on your kit and the pattern. So go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter, and then I send that out and I let you guys know first whenever I have a new free pattern or a tutorial or anything exciting happening. This is also available in my Etsy and in my Ravelry shop as well, so I'll get links to all of that in the description for you guys. A little bit about the top: it is made in 2 main panels here from side to side, and then seamed together up the front here and down the back. And then the sleeves are in 2 separate panels worked top down. You can easily adjust the length of your sleeves by adding or removing rows. You can also easily adjust the length of your top by adding or removing stitches in the foundation row right when you start your main panel. And then you can adjust the width of it. You can see this is supposed to fit like a rectangular style top, but if you want it more form-fitting or wider, you can add or remove rows there as well. I used Lazy Days yarn from Lion Brand, which is a worsted weight yarn. It has a really nice texture. It's a very unique texture. It's a very squishy yarn. I sized my hook up to an 8mm so we can get kind of an open, drapey, loose stitch feel. I also left a little slit here at the sleeves to kind of give it this cute little bell shape. It's a pretty straightforward pattern. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will catch you in the next tutorial. So for this design, I'm using a worsted weight yarn called Lazy Days by Lion Brand, and all the exact yardage for all 9 sizes is available on my blog, enpcrochet.com. I'm also going to be using an L 8mm crochet hook, a needle to weave in my ends, a pair of scissors, and then you'll also need a couple of stitch markers. So each one of the panels in this design starts off the exact same way. The only difference is the amount of stitches that you'll be beginning with, depending on whether you're making the main panel or the sleeve, and depending on your size. So to start off with all 4 of the panels, you just begin with a slip knot. And then we're going to be doing a foundation single crochet row. If you don't know how to do that, you can also chain instead. But to do the foundation single crochet, you're just going to chain 2. And then in the back bump of that very first chain that you made, you're going to insert your hook and then yarn over and pull up a loop. And then yarn over, pull through the first loop only, and then yarn over, pull through both of the loops. And that is 1 foundation single crochet stitch. We're going to do it again. I'm going to rotate now, and on the bottom of that stitch that we just made, insert my hook under both of those loops, and then yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop only, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again, insert your hook into the bottom of that previous stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm making one of the main panels right now, and I am making the size small sweater. If you're following along with the written pattern, you can see the stitch count that you need for your size. For the size small, I need 75 single crochet stitches, so I'm going to work 75 foundation single crochet. If you'd rather chain, you can chain 76 and then work 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook and back across for a total of 75. So now we're starting row 2. You're going to begin by chaining 4. So just yarn over and pull through a total of 4 times. And this does count as 1 treble crochet stitch. So this is our first stitch of the row. And now we're going to work a treble in that same stitch. So yarn over your hook twice, and in that very first single crochet from the row below, enter your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2 for 1 treble crochet stitch. So now we have 2 treble stitches. We're going to skip the following stitch, and in the one right after it, work another treble. So yarn over twice, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So now we're going to be working a picot stitch. So to do that, we're going to chain 4. You can make them bigger or smaller by adding more or less chains. That's up to you. And then insert your hook into that very first chain that you made. Yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on your hook as well for 1 picot. And then we're going to work a treble into that very same stitch. So yarn over twice, and in the same stitch as that previous treble is where you'll be inserting your hook and working a second treble. So we basically made a treble V stitch with a picot in between. And we're going to be repeating that same thing all the way across the row. This time we're going to be skipping 2 stitches in between. It's only at the start of the row where you skip 1. So now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and in that following stitch we're going to do the same thing. We're going to work a treble, a picot, and then a treble. So yarn over twice, skip 2, insert your hook, and then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then work your picot stitch. Again, you're going to chain 4, and then we're going to slip stitch into that very first chain made. If you have a different way that you prefer to do your picots, that's totally fine. There are a couple different variations that are out there. This is how I prefer to do mine. And then we're going to work another treble into the same stitch that we just worked our previous one in. So this is what you'll be repeating across the row. You're going to just skip 2, work a treble, a picot, a treble into the same stitch, and repeat all the way across. When you have 3 stitches remaining, we're going to be skipping those next 2 stitches and then end our row with a treble into the final stitch. So just yarn over twice and then skip 2, and in that very last stitch of the row, work 1 last treble crochet stitch. Your stitch count is going to stay the same throughout all of the panels. Each treble, it counts as 1 stitch, and then each picot counts as 1 stitch as well. So your stitch count will be the same as it was in row 1. Now you can go ahead and turn your work and start row 3. And for row 3, it's going to be very similar, except we're not going to be doing any picots in this one. We're just going to have a chain in between the treble stitches. So we're going to start off the row by chaining 4. Again, this does count as a treble stitch here and throughout the rest of the pattern. And then you're going to work your first treble into that very same stitch. So we have 2 treble stitches. And now we're going to be skipping over the next treble stitch. So it is the right leg of that V from the row below, plus the picot stitch we're also going to skip over. And then we're going to work our next treble stitch into the following stitch right after the picot. So just work 1 treble stitch into that one, and then instead of working a picot stitch, we're just going to chain 1, and then work a second treble into that very same spot. So we have a treble, chain 1, treble, and then we're just going to skip 2 and repeat across the row. So now it's the same thing that we were doing previously, but no picot stitches in between, just a chain 1 in between. Again, skip 2, work your treble, and then your chain 1 and your treble into the same spot. Go ahead and repeat across the row, and I will meet you at the end to show you how to finish it and begin the next row. Okay, so now we've worked our way across. We have 2 stitches remaining. Don't forget that our starting chain counts as a treble stitch. So you're going to skip 1 stitch and then work your final treble crochet into the top of that starting chain 4 from the previous row. So insert your hook and just work a treble like normal, and you're working it into the top of that chain 4, and that completes row 3. Okay, so for row 4, we're going to start off with a chain 4 again. It does still count as a treble, and then we're going to work our first treble into that same stitch. And then you're going to skip over the next 2 stitches, so skip the treble and the chain, and then in that following stitch is where you're going to begin your next V-stitch with the picot. So just treble, picot, and then treble all into the same spot, and then skip 2, and just repeat that all the way across the row until you have 2 stitches remaining. I'll meet you at the end of the row to show you how to finish it off. Okay, so we've worked our treble, picot, treble, skip 2s all the way across. We have 2 stitches remaining here at the end of the row, and then we work our final stitch into the top of the starting chain 4 from the previous row to finish row 4. So now we're just going to be repeating rows 3 and 4 over and over and over again for all of our panels. So we have 4 rows currently for the size small. For rows 5 through 11, I'm just going to keep repeating rows 3 and 4. Make sure you check and see how many rows you need for your size. Okay, so this is my main panel here. I have a total of 11 rows right now, and then depending on what size you make, you might be ending on a picot row or you might be ending on a chain 1 row. But all of the rows are going to be finishing with working a single crochet stitches across for the final row of the panel. So just chain 1 and then work a single crochet into the top of your treble stitches. When you reach the chain 1 space, just work a single crochet into this space. I worked it just in the space and not in the chain. If you're finishing on a picot row, you'll have to kind of pull the picot forward and then work your single crochet into the first chain of that picot just behind it. And I will show you how to do that here in just a second, so that you can have a visual if you're one of the sizes that ends on a row with picots instead of chains. But either way, you're just going to be working 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across for your final row. This is row 12 for the size small. And then you'll have to repeat this entire panel all over again as well, doing the exact same thing. So go ahead and finish working each single crochet all the way across the row, and then if you're ending on a picot row, stick around and I'll show you here how to work your stitches behind them. Okay, so if you are one of the sizes that ended on a picot row for the main panel, here is how to do your single crochet row. Just chain 1, work a single crochet into the first stitch, a single crochet into the second stitch, and then now we have our picot stitch. You're just going to kind of fold it forward so you can see the chain that is just behind it. So we're just sticking our hook right into that first chain of the picot, and it's just behind the picot, and then work your single crochet as normal, and then just into the top of the trebles as well. So I'll show you one more time. I'm just reaching the picot stitch and I'm going to fold it forward. So you don't want to work your stitch around the picot, but you want to put it just behind the picot into the chain that's back there, and then work a single crochet into it. And you can just do this all the way across the row to finish your main panel, and then go back and rework the same thing all over again so that you have 2 main panels. Next, you need to make 2 sleeves. They're exactly the same as the main panel, so you can go back and rewatch if you need to. The only difference is how many you start off with in row 1. So for a size small, I worked 30 single crochet stitches, and then I just continue with the regular row repeats that I did in the main panel. So go ahead and make 2 of those sleeves. The bigger the size that you are making, the shorter the sleeves will be, since this is a drop shoulder style sweater. So just be aware of that as well, and make sure you're following along with your size in the pattern. So once you have all 4 panels made, we need to join them together. I have the 2 main panels here, and when we seam them together, we'll have row 1s of our main panels are on the outer side. So on the inside here is where our final rows are, and those are the rows that we'll be joining together. So the final row that you made on each of the panels is where you'll be doing the seaming. And then you'll also want to make sure that you have the right sides facing as you join together. And the right side is row 1 of your panels. So when you're looking correctly at row 1, that is the right side of your work. If you have a hard time figuring that out, we want the side where the picots stick out and kind of poke out to be the outside of our sweater. So when you're working those rows with the picot, they kind of poked away from you to the other side. We want that side to be the correct side of the sweater. So when you're joining your panels together, you want the right sides facing each other. You can see I'm holding them together with the right sides facing, and then I'm just using my hook here and slip stitching across to join. And you'll see within the written pattern that I wrote how many stitches you'll want to join on both the front and the back depending on your size. So for the back side of the sweater, where I'm showing you right now in slip stitching, I worked up 28 stitches together and then fastened off, and then on the front side you'll repeat the same thing. So just on the other end of these 2 main panels, you'll join in again and work 23 stitches. So you can see here I just slip stitched that first 2 stitches together, and now I'm going to work in the outer loops only and just slip stitch up a total of 28 stitches, and then again fasten off, turn the work around so that you can join in on the other end of the main panels. So we're just joining the last row of the main panels together, but leaving an opening for our head, and I joined those up 23 stitches for the front of the sweater. So if you want a tighter neckline, you can sew together more. If you want it wider and looser, you can sew less. It's all just personal preference, and the exact amount that I did is in the written pattern. So next we need to join our sleeves in. You can see there's my neckline there from after seaming the 2 main panels together along that final row. And now we need to join together row 1 of our main panel with row 1 of our sleeve. And you're going to just line it up so that it's evenly and halfway spaced along your main panel. Now for some of the sizes, this main panel here, once you join in the sleeve, it leaves you with an odd number of stitches. So you'll have 1 extra stitch, but we're just going to slip stitch into that same stitch twice while we're joining. Or you can just leave it open and do a little seam at the end to close the tiny hole. But do not worry if you notice that there is an odd number. So for the size small, for example, I have 22 stitches on either end of the sleeve here that I'm going to be sewing up later, but the sleeve is 30 stitches, but the total of the main panel was 75. So that leaves us with 1 extra stitch, which I'm just going to work my hook or needle into it twice while I'm seaming the sleeve on so that it evens it out. So some of the sizes will have that extra stitch, but don't panic. It's not going to mess up the sweater, and it all will work out in the end, and you're just going to sew it together. I'm going to show you that here. So you can use your hook or your needle, however you would like to join your sleeve to your sweater. And then I'll show you what I mean here by that extra stitch so that our sides are even when we join them. So I'm going to work my hook here through the next couple of stitches. And then in the very same stitch, I'm going to insert my hook again on that main panel and then into the following stitch of the sleeve. That way it evens out our stitch count. Then you'll just continue sewing all the way across to the next stitch marker. If you're using stitch markers here, all I did was place them into the center of the sweater. So I just lined my sleeve up and I placed it within those center stitches to keep everything in place, and then just slip stitch or sew across and repeat on the other side as well. Okay, so this is what it looks like once you have your sleeve joined in, and now we're going to fold our sweater together. So you still want to have everything right sides facing and the seams all on the same side. And now we just need to sew up the bottom of the sweater and across to the cuff as well. So you can just join in a new piece of yarn down at the bottom hem of the main panels and then slip stitch or sew up to the underarm. And then when you reach the underarm, just continue down the length of the arm to sew the sleeve together. And then I ended up leaving 5 rows unseamed on my sleeve here to kind of give it that flared bell look. Or if you prefer to have it sewn all the way to the cuff, you can do that as well. You can just sew all the way to the end of the panel if you want to. But I thought it looked super cute leaving some of it unsewn. So you have the option to do either one here. And then once you do it on this side, you need to repeat on the other side as well. So finally, we just have to work 1 round of single crochet and picot stitches along the bottom hem. So I have my sweater here with the right sides facing out now, and I'm just going to take a new piece of yarn, and on the side seam of the sweater, I'm just going to slip stitch in to join, chain 1, and this is right in the one of the single crochet rows right at the seam. So where you joined the 2 single crochet rows together, that's where I'm going to join in and work 1 single crochet into the single crochet row. And then for each of the treble crochet rows, you'll work 3 single crochet. So you can see I just did 2 into the first treble crochet row, and here is my 3rd one into that first treble row. And I've kind of lined it up, so each time you get to a picot row, you'll work a picot stitch. So single crochet into the single crochet row, single crochet 3, and work a picot. And now we'll work 3 more single crochet into the next row of treble stitches, but there's no picot on this one, so we're not going to work one there. We're going to keep going. So then in the following treble row, work 3 single crochet, and this is one of the rows with our picot. So you can see I'm lining up that 3rd single crochet stitch with the picots in the main panel, chaining 4, and then working a picot. Again, I'm going to work 3 more single crochet into the next treble row, and then continue on with 3 more single crochet into the following treble row, and then working a picot after that 3rd single crochet. So everywhere that you are passing from the main panel that has a picot is where you're going to be doing a picot, and you're just going to repeat this around. When you reach the single crochet rows, just work 1 single crochet into each of them. So work this all the way around and then slip stitch to your first single crochet to join. After that, you just need to weave in any remaining ends that you have, and that is it for this design. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.